Hey everybody, this is Christina from Brush and Bristle Studio. I hope you guys are having a great day so far. I'm going to go over how to use the 40-ounce Tumbler Smart Object Mockup today. Now, for those of you that are familiar with my mockups, I'm going to do these in Photoshop and in Photopea. These are set up as like one-click change. One-click change means you change one and it changes all. Now with the 40 ounces, they're split up into 3 different parts. You've got your top, your middle, and your bottom. So you're going to have to go click on those 3 on one tumbler, but then it'll apply to all 3 tumblers once you're done. It'll help speed up your workflow a little bit. But you want to make sure you're using this in Photoshop or in Photopea. I know I have people who contact me who use Affinity and some other art programs, but those programs don't have the same features that Photoshop and Photopea have, and like the warp feature. That one's really important for this because it gives you that nice wraparound effect. Now, if you are using one of these other programs and you really want to use my mockup, I can set you up, but it just doesn't give you that nice wraparound effect. It'll look straight. So I'm sure you guys have seen people that have used mockups where they don't have the wraparound feature, and you can tell that it's just like kind of like pasted on in a way. So if that's what you want, I can totally make it available. But if you want that nice wraparound effect, check out Photopea. It's at photopea.com. It's free and it's a web-based program. So it's a lot like how you go to Canva. You go on canva.com and you just get to it through a web browser. And if you have an iPad, you use it through Safari. It's fantastic to use because you can use it on the go, and it's a lot more powerful than a lot of these other popular programs. It's very similar to Photoshop. So with this tutorial, I'm going to go over how to use this in Photoshop and Photopea, but in the first part of the tutorial, I'm going to go over everything with this mockup so you know how to use all of it. But when I get to the Photopea portion, because it's so similar, I'm only going to go over the things that are different, which are very minute. It's just like a very small change. So that portion is going to be very short. But if you're going to use Photopea, make sure you watch all of this Photoshop portion so you don't miss out on some of the functionality. But yeah, let's get started. So once you have this open in Photoshop, you want to look for the tabbed layers. So I use colored tabs to help identify things, like catch your attention on certain things. So red is going to be for smart objects, and we'll be using orange tab layers to change colors a little bit later. So as I said earlier, you're going to want to change the top, the middle, and the bottom on one tumbler, and then it's going to apply it to all 3. So I'm going to open up all 3 of these smart objects first. And I will say, before we really get started, I will apologize to some of our more advanced users of Photoshop, because I'm going to be very beginner level for people that are just starting out, because I know there are so many beginners that are getting into their sublimation journey and they have no idea how to use Photoshop. So I am going to go slow and really baby step things just to make sure that those beginners can feel comfortable with this. So I apologize in advance. So this is going to be our top one, and we want to go ahead and open up our files that we're going to put in here. So I'm going to open these up, and let's start with the top one. And we want to select this whole document. And you do that by pressing Control and A, or you can grab this marquee tool up here and you can just drag and drop to select everything. Now, you know it's all selected when you see all these little marching ants around the whole border of your design. Once you see that, you can press Control and C, or go up here to Edit and press Copy. And once that's done, you can just close out of this. We don't need that anymore. Now, I know I can't see the layer I need, so I'm going to press these 2 little arrows up here, and this drop down is going to pop up, and I know that rectangle 11 is for our top. So I'm going to press that, and then I'm going to press Control V, or you can go up here to edit and hit paste. Now, everyone sizes things a little bit differently. From this, I have it sized at 12.39 by 5.52. If your design does not fit, you can always press Control T or go up here to edit and free transform, and you'll see these little anchor points that pop up. Now, these will allow you to easily resize your design so that it'll fit this design. And that's going to be very important for this mock-up in particular. And we'll get to that on the next two, is you want to make sure that you do not see any of this white. That all needs to be covered. Now let's say you have a design that is like this, and you just need to resize this one part up here. Up here, it's got this little link button. These are where you're going to do a lot of your resizing stuff. So this link is saying that it's going to be a proportional change between width and height. So if you change the width, it's automatically going to change your height at the same time. But we don't want that. So we can uncheck that, and that will allow us to change just one side at a time. Now, I have a little tip that I absolutely love. I use it all the time, and that is holding down Shift. If you hold down Shift and then drag and drop, as you see, it's controlling that one side. That just saves you from having to go up here and press that link every single time. It's very helpful. So once you have that sized how you need it, you can press enter, or you can press this little check mark up here. And now that you're happy with the resizing, you're going to want to update your smart object. So you want to save this. So you can press Control S, or you can go up here to File and then Save. And it's going to update your smart object for you. Now over here, this is going to be our bottom layer. So I'm going to look for my bottom file, and I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to copy, close it, and then I'm going to paste. Now, as I was saying just a minute ago, you need to make sure that your designs fit to where you don't see any of the white. So it's more important on these warped layers, because you will see that on the finished mock-up. So you want to make sure you have those covered. So again, we're going to do a resize. So we're going to do Control T, or go up to edit and free transform. And let's say over here, it just has a super tiny little thing. So I'm going to pull it over here, and then I'm going to hold Shift and drag up, and hold Shift and drag down. And that is going to help with that. As you see, we don't see that background anymore. Now, for those of you with a keen eye, you might have already noticed that there is a red tabbed layer in here. And if you remember, red tabbed layer means it's a smart object file. So I have the bottom and middle set up as nested smart objects. So if you are wanting to upload a smart file, a straight file into the smart object, you can do that. So if you double click, here's your straight file. You can do your design in here, or paste the straight design in here, and once you save it and close it, it'll automatically warp it for you. Because I've had several of y'all reach out to me about having that functionality, so I just want to make sure you guys know it's there and you can do that. I'm also going to be doing another tutorial sometime soon on how I design my smart object, not my smart objects. I am going to do a tutorial on smart objects, but I'm going to do a tutorial that was requested recently about how I make my 40-ounce designs. And I have those, of course, set up with smart objects because I'm obsessed with smart objects. But I'm going to include my template that I make those within that as a link in the description. So if you're interested in my template and how I try and fast track my designs, feel free to come grab that. And like I said, it's going to be a free thing for anyone that checks that out. So now we're going to save this so it updates the smart object, and we can move on to the middle. And we're going to Control A, Control C, and then Control V. And we do not see any of that background. Again, you've got that red tab layer. So again, you can update with a straight file. Once that's there, we'll save that and we'll go back to the main file, and voila, it's on all three. Oops. So now I'm going to go over a couple little changes with you guys so you know how you can like customize this and personalize this a little bit for yourself. I guess we'll start from the top and work our way down. So we've got this one part. It's a folder that I don't have visible right now, but it's for extra highlights and shadows. So if you want your highlights and shadows to be just a little bit more extreme, you can turn that on. And as you see, I feel like it makes it pop a little bit. I played with things a little bit, and this is what I really liked. Now you can edit these by double clicking on these icons. So this is a brightness contrast layer and this is a vibrance layer, but you do want to be a little cautious because it applies to absolutely everything on this mock-up. So keep that in mind as you play with these. But you are totally welcome to play with those. Now I'm going to turn that off for the rest of this tutorial, but I just wanted you to know that that is there. Now we've got straws and lids. You've got silver metal straws and you've got plastic straws. And with this, I've also added lid colors. So you can turn that visibility on for the lid colors, and it'll let you change the colors. If you double click this palette right here, it's going to open up your hue saturation panel, and you want to make sure that this box for colorize is checked. Sometimes that can get like clicked off just randomly at times, but I know I've even had it happen. Like when I first started using Photoshop, I had this unchecked and I was like, why isn't this color working? But that's all it is. Don't have a panic attack like I did. It's not broken. Just click this little checkbox and it'll work. So to change the colors, you've got a couple ways to do that in here. So you can change the main base color by dragging and dropping the hue wherever you need it to go. Then you can mess with the saturation to make it like brighter or darker, like more muted. Or you can mess with the lightness and darkness to like really make it lighter or darker. I know they've been offering so many different colors. I've seen so many colors for these. So I just thought this is the best way to handle it. So you guys have full flexibility to make it look however you need for whatever kind of tumbler you've got right now. But if you're not going to have the colors on here and you just want it to be white, just hide that. Click on that and it'll hide the colors. But that's all for straws and lids. And then we've got, this is cup shadows and highlights. Now you can click on any of these, and if you go like up here, these are your blending options. So I would not touch this. Like these are your actual blending modes. I have all of these set to particular blending modes that you don't want to mess with. Because sometimes if you turn on a blending mode, it can actually mess with the coloring of your design in very extreme ways. So don't touch that. But you can mess with the opacity and the fill to make it more intense. So like I have the opacity set to 68 on this one. we can crank it up. It's not like super noticeable, but it's there as a choice. Now, if you wanted to make these like even more intense, like you can do Control J, and that will duplicate that layer. Then you can go up here and do that and do that, and it makes it just a tidge darker. But if you keep duplicating, it'll make it darker as you add. I prefer things a little bit lighter, just my preference, but I know that there are plenty of you out there that prefer those darker shadows, so that is a way that you can do that. So let's see, handles. Now, I've got them split up with right and left. They're not joined, so you will have to go into each handle and then turn the visibility on for those and make sure it's visible. If you do the same thing, you just drag and drop for the color here wherever you want it, and that'll change it. And I know I hate dragging and dropping and just like trying to randomly find what I need. So if you look at these numbers right here, if you like go double click on this one, you just enter those numbers in right here, and that'll change it to the same colors. That will save you time. Let's see, let me turn those off. And then you've got your bottom shadows here. It's just like up here with the cup shadows and highlights. Don't mess with the blending mode, but you can mess with the opacity and fill, and you can make this much darker. And then you've got background options. I tried to give you a nice varied selection to go with a bunch of different designs. If there are any other backgrounds y'all are interested in, let me know. But I thought these would be good for just starting out. And I also applied, as you see, a orange tad layer, a color change feature that is on the white shimmer only. So if we hide the white shimmer, it's not changing the backgrounds for those. I doubt you'd want them to apply to anything else, but if you did want them to apply, you can release the clipping mask, and maybe it would look good on, like, maybe not this color, but maybe you could change the color on this one a little bit. I'm gonna do some different tutorials on ways to like change some things for you guys. So keep your eyes peeled on my YouTube, because you might see some interesting videos to help learn more about mock-ups and all of that stuff. But so, I've got the clipping mask back on this layer, and again, if you want to make any changes to the color, just drag and drop on all three of these to get it whatever color you need it. But I try to give you guys as many options as possible to really personalize these how you need them. But I think that's everything for this tutorial. If you guys have any questions about Photoshop, about this mock-up, feel free to reach out to me. You can message me on Etsy, you can comment below in this YouTube video, whatever you need, feel free to contact me. But that's going to be everything for this tutorial in Photoshop. If you stick around, if you're using Photopea, I'll go over those little changes in Photopea in just a minute. But I will see y'all soon. Hey everybody, welcome back. So we're going to start going over how to use this in Photopea now. To get to Photopea, you're going to go to photopea.com. You can do that on any web browser, on a PC, on an iPad, whatever. As long as it has a web browser, you can access it. Photopea is 100% free, and it is very similar to Photoshop. So as I said in the first part of the tutorial, I'm not going to go over everything in Photopea, because I went over all of that in Photoshop, and it's pretty much the exact same. So I'm only going to go over the things that are different in Photopea, which isn't very much. It really has to do with the smart objects, and I'll show you that in just a second. So once you're here, you can go to Open from Computer, and you want to navigate to your file. And once it's open, again, you're going to find your tabbed layers and double click on the thumbnail. And because of some of the changes, like some of the things that are different in this, we're going to click on the bottom smart object because it's going to show you a really funky quirk. Now, I love Photopea. I really, really do. But I hate how it handles PNG files. And I will demonstrate that for you in just a second. Now, in Photoshop, you would typically just go File, Open, and then navigate to your file to open it. But in this, we want to cut out a couple steps. So we're going to go to File and Open in Place. And then we want to navigate to the file that we want to put in here. All right. So as I said, it's not very nice with PNG files. Now, when I make my files for these, I have a template that I use to make my 40-ounce designs, and in doing that, it leaves all this extra space with the bottom file. So when you use Photopea, it's going to, like with Photoshop, it ignores that blank space, and it will keep if you were to show the anchor points, these little things right here on the edges, when you see that in Photoshop, it's around the actual design itself. But Photopea actually pays attention to the PNG blank space. So because of that, that's why you see it looking like this, and it looks so small. Now, another thing I'm going to point out really fast is, I don't know if you caught it or not, but by using Open in Place, it went ahead and copied, pasted, and set this to free transform. So that cut out 3 steps for us that we didn't really have to do, that we did have to do in Photoshop. So when you use other mockups, you don't normally have this kind of hiccup because of the blank space. But with those, it would typically really speed up the design process. Now, I'm going to go up here, and this is your the dimensions for your design. And notice that it's checked and linked. So all 4 sides are going to change. I'm just going to bump that up to 100. And as you see, it really made it very close to what it needed to be. But we still see some of the background peeking out. So the sides look fine. I'm just going to drag and drop the top and bottom. Remember that this is linked, so you can always uncheck that, but I like leaving that checked and just holding down Shift, as I said earlier. It really does speed up the process. And I'm pretty sure we've got, nope, just a little bit more on top. All right. Once you have it right, press that check, and then you can press Control S to save, or you can go here to File, and this is another thing that's different. You know, in Photoshop, you'd go File, Save, but you've got a couple save options, and this really confuses some people. I've gotten a lot of messages about this in particular, so I want to make sure you guys know you hit Save Smart Object, or as I said before, you can just hit Control S and that will save it and update your smart object. So if you go back over here, you see it's already updated to all 3 tumblers. So this really isn't that different from Photoshop, but it's just slightly quirky with how you will add the file and then save it. And then if you're working with PNG files where you got, blank space, it's going to adhere more to that. But as you saw earlier, when you have your, when you're doing your resizing for this, you can always change the resize. It's normally, like earlier, instead of it saying 100 by 100, it was saying like 66 by 66 or something. So I just changed that to 100, and then it took the size up to where it almost fit, to where its natural size actually is supposed to be. So it shouldn't be like too crazy hard to do the resizing and stuff, but it's just annoying. But if you're not using PNG backgrounds, I actually think it's superior to Photoshop because it helps you cut out those steps. So yeah, that's really the only change. If you guys have any questions on Photopea, Photoshop, my mockups, whatever, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to answer questions or help with whatever. I know a couple of y'all have reached out for me to do a couple new features and a couple new tutorials for stuff. So I will be getting those posted here shortly. But yeah, if you guys need anything, feel free to reach out. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope it helps you understand how to use my mockup in these programs. But I hope y'all have a great day. See y'all later.